Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Perfect. So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Colby Soller, and I'm going to be your host. Tonight's information session is being recorded, just so everybody knows. It is primarily pointed towards us. I kindly ask everyone to put their phones on silent and remain respectful while others are speaking. We're here tonight to listen, to learn, and to share in a productive and respectful manner. Please try to hold your questions until the end, where we're going to have an open question period when our experts and speakers are finished. Before we dive too far in, I would like to acknowledge that we are on ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the peace and friendship treaties signed between Mi'kmaq and the Crown. These treaties did not invoke the surrender of the land, resources, or sovereignty, and they remain legally binding to this day. We express our gratitude to the Mi'kmaq people for their stewardship of these lands for thousands of years. We recognize their deep, ongoing connection to the land, the water, and all living things. We're here tonight because something is being proposed that affects us all. Uranium exploration and possibly mining. And I know that may sound distant, or maybe even harmless at first. But the reality is the risks it brings to our water, air, and health, they don't just stop at property lines or town borders. I'm not standing here as an expert, though we've spoken to a bunch over the last month. I'm standing here as a concerned citizen of East Dalhousie who lives just minutes away from a proposed mining site. I'm somebody who cares, somebody who's watched the land change, and somebody who's proud to live in a place where neighbors still wave when they pass. I'm 24 years old, and while I don't have a family of my own yet, I plan to one day. And that's a very big part of why I'm here, because this is our future. I've lived in the woods, as some may call it, for the past 20 years. I've spent my youth running and exploring the outdoors, climbing trees, and learning to live a self-sufficient life inside of and with nature. And I, as well, try to be a good steward of the land. I've curated a lot of detailed plans for my future, which heavily rely on clean air, water, and soil. And I plan to have my own farm one day. And not just to feed myself or my family, but others as well. But that very future is at risk here in Nova Scotia. Even though over the last little while, since the RFP's been closed, I've heard a lot of people say that there's been no bids and that, oh, it's over. I want to emphasize loud and clear that this is not over. And we know this because the government's announcements have confirmed that. We know at least one company, Solterra, who had posts on LinkedIn 2 to 3 weeks before the RFP process concluded, expressing their interest, plans, and strategies. This company made it clear that they would be applying, and a week or so before the RFP closed, they deleted their LinkedIn profile, and now, as the RFP is closed, we can see that they never did apply. Wednesday, June 11th, the RFP process closed. Tim Houston announced Thursday, June 12th, that the RFP closed with no interest. That same day, MANS, the Mining Association of Nova Scotia, sent out an announcement and request for red tape to be cut. And guess what happened that following day? Friday, June 13th, Houston announced cutting the red tape. And guess what? Because it doesn't stop there. June 20th, the Mining Association of Nova Scotia put out a post on their Facebook page about the process they would be using to extract the uranium. And I'm going to butcher the name, so I apologize. In situ leaching, which is a solution mining technique. In this post, they compared it to salt mining. That is what they are comparing radioactive material to in order to prove that extraction is safe. Salt. I spoke out and gave some detailed information in replies to the post, and as you'd expect, they deleted it and also banned me from viewing their page. And this is who we're supposed to trust. The people deleting and hiding information that debunks the greenwashing they're pushing out. I don't buy it for a second. If it could be done safely, there would be nothing to hide. It's clear, both Mans and the government have a lot to hide here. And we've also noticed with their more recent posts regarding uranium, they've turned the comments off so nobody can comment on them either anymore. But all their other posts are open to comments. So it's clear that the government is not stopping, and neither should we. Because this fight is bigger than all of us, and it's something we should consider very carefully. It's about the water we drink, the air we breathe, and the woods we hope our kids and grandkids will one day run through. It's about making sure this province, our home, stays wild, clean, and habitable long after we're gone. Because the choices we make today are going to ripple far into the future. So again, thank you so much for being here tonight. Together, we stand as one. Together, we are Nova Scotia strong. And together, we stand to reinstate the ban. And now I would like to hand things over to my mother, Megan Dimmel, to give us her presentation.
Thank you all for coming. I'm going to talk a bit about why we're here, how we got here, and where we go from here. So the history of uranium mining. Nova Scotia was explored in the past by mining companies in the 70s in many different areas of the province. They took core samples from 5 different areas, but did not proceed with mining for various reasons. The areas that they did the extraction for samples was in Moosehide Lake in Digby County, Greywood Dump, Annapolis County, East Dalhousie and Cherryfield in Annapolis County, Millet Brook, Hants County, and Louisville in River John. Here's a map of the extraction areas. The big stars with the arrows you can see are where different diamond drilling was done and many core samples were taken in the 1970s. The other little star areas on the map are uranium occurrences. So they know uranium exists in these areas and they just never had a chance to test out those areas yet. The history of uranium mining in Nova Scotia continues. So in 1981, there was a moratorium put in place, which later followed by a legislative ban in 2009 due to environmental concerns, such as groundwater contamination and radioactive waste. Fast forward to March of this year, when the Nova Scotia government lifted the ban, after the call from many experts for protecting our waters, land, air, our health was ignored. And then on May 14th, there was a request for proposal that was issued to initiate prospectors in 3 areas of the province. It closed on June 11th with no response other than the mining companies requesting red tape to be cut. Here are the 3 areas which have been previously explored in the past: Louisville, Pictou County, Millet Brook, Hants County, and East Dalhousie, Cherryfield in Annapolis and Kings County. So the timeline. On March 26th, the government passed Bill 6, repealing the legislative ban on uranium mining and extraction in Nova Scotia. On May 14th, they updated the critical minerals list in Nova Scotia, adding uranium to that. The request for proposal went out the same day on May 14th. And then it concluded on June 11th with no bids. But why? So here's what we know. June 13th, the Mining Nova Scotia oh my goodness, sorry. Mining Association of Nova Scotia pushes back and asks for the red tape to be cut to expedite the process. The same date, Tim Haleman, our environmental minister, posted that our mining industry is critically important and can play a larger role in supplying minerals that are in global demand to fight climate change. This new process cuts red tape, reduces delays, and provides clarity, all while maintaining the high environmental protections that Nova Scotians expect to deserve. But we don't know what those are. They made this statement and they haven't released much information since. Our councils have been listening to us in many different areas of the province, and they have been sending in letters to state, to pause, to just talk to the constituents, talk to First Nations communities. There's been no consultation with the public on this. So after 5 of our counties have stood up, they received letters of reprimand from our provincial government stating that funding is going to be cut if they don't go along with, what Nova Scotia needs. There are residents in Nova Scotia who have gotten calls to allow exploration on private property. And this has just been within the last week and a half. And then most recently, Bill C-5 passed through Senate. It's called the Building Canada Act, which has a lot to do with mineral development and fast-tracking projects. Facts about uranium mining. Uranium can't be mined without radiation and pollution risks. Uranium mining can contaminate drinking water, air, and soil with heavy metals and can cause radioactive contamination of foods and water, even up to 400 kilometers away. Uranium mining releases radon gas. Radon gas is the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. The risk of lung cancer increases proportionately with increasing amounts of radon. Uranium mining leaves behind radioactive waste. When the mining process is complete, the waste from the milling and in situ mining are stored in ponds and can remain radioactive. As the uranium decays, it becomes radium and eventually becomes radioactive radon gas. Uranium waste can be radioactive for thousands of years, and mining sites can be dangerous for years even after they stop operating. In this picture, it shows the uranium that has been in groundwater. So in the green areas on the screen, you can see all of the uranium that has been tested and found in the groundwater within Nova Scotia. And if you look at if you remember back to the previous map, it shows you exactly where the extraction sites have been, and they all line up. So one of the reasons why we're here today is this affects our groundwater. Water is everywhere in the province of Nova Scotia. And in the western zone, like we're in today, there's the 5 largest watersheds here. In East Dalhousie, the LaHave River watershed. That is the part of the watershed that flows right down into the Atlantic Ocean. In Millet Brook, Hants County, the Avon River watershed. So it flows into the Avon River, which feeds into the Minas Basin, which, that's not very far from here. And in River John, it flows right into the Northumberland Strait. This is a picture of a letter that was received by a community member. And this is very important because this is a document from the Natural Resources of Nova Scotia. And in it, it states that we're hopeful that Nova Scotians will consider the economic and health benefits of exploration as they consider a request for company. Please listen to the experts who will tell you. Exploration, there are no health benefits there. Uranium needs to stay in the ground. You're going to hear a lot about comparisons to Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is the only other province within Canada that does uranium mining. We are much different than Saskatchewan. Their land mass is almost 12 times larger than we are. They have less water and almost the same amount of people. When zoomed in on Saskatchewan, you can see there's a few lakes and areas. When you zoom into Nova Scotia, we're water. And I must say this is the same amount that I've zoomed in on each province. Again, we are a lot smaller, but we are also made completely of water. There's a few different types of mining. This is a picture of open pit mining. These mines span hundreds of thousands of acres. And for each ton of ore processed via an open pit mining, 40 tons of waste are generated. And dust and radon gas are released during this process. What the mining companies are saying is that they're going to do in situ leach mining. So this method of uranium collected minimizes air contamination, but has a greater potential for water contamination. When the solution that they use mixes with underground water, the water pollution can lead to the presence of sulfuric acid in downstream ecosystems. Tailings are also one of the primary sources of health and environmental concerns in the context of uranium extraction. So let's look at Nova Scotia's track record for mining. There's 69 abandoned mine sites in the province, with 67 requiring assessment for remediation and 60 sites needing cleanup, according to the Halifax Examiner. The provincial government has identified 127 potential contaminated sites on Crown land. It shows that the taxpayers are responsible for this cleanup. And uranium mining is one of the most dangerous types of mining due to the risks of cancer-causing radiation. At the end of its life, the province will be left with a tailings pile or pond containing radioactive materials, which will be dangerous for the next 10,000 years or more. Let that sink in. That's longer than any of us will ever see. So, Nova Scotia as a whole, we are all in this together. Like Colby said, it doesn't stop at county lines. There were no consultations. Experts' opinions were unheard. Nova Scotians left in the dark. Counties and communities are standing up, and counties are being threatened with funding cuts if they do not comply. We're also getting blanket responses from our elected officials. As you can see, none of our MLAs are here today. They will not attend these meetings. Sorry, none of our conservative MLAs are here today. Let's put that out there. We deserve better. We need to stand up and let our voices be heard. As we say no to exploration and mining of uranium, we state to bring back the moratorium and reinstate the ban. So what can you do? You can speak up. Talk to your local councillors, talk to your MLAs and your MP. Even if they don't want to listen, make that phone call, send that letter. Raise awareness and share information with your community members. Participate in community actions. I'm thankful that you all are here today to learn a little bit more information and just to see what we are facing as a province. There's some information here as you have received when you get in. There's a Facebook group. You can go on and find out some more information. Stay tuned, and we will be updating as this moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan. Next up, we have a video from Marlene Brown regarding the incident that took place in Harrietsfield here in Nova Scotia. We cut the clip into a shorter video just to highlight the most important notes for tonight. It's about a 7-minute video. Some of you may or may not have seen her shared in the Facebook group. And for those of you who haven't, after this, I will share her video again, which is a little over 16 minutes long.
My name is Marlene Brown.
A little bit of a technical difficulty.
Marlene Brown. I am a resident of Harrodsfield, Nova Scotia. We're located 10 kilometers outside of Halifax City Hall. We are the first community in Nova Scotia to have uranium exploration take place. This occurred back in 1976 when a young man from Harrodsfield who was working at the local hospital had a hair sample done. They discovered he had uranium in his hair. So they found out where he lived, and from 76 to 81, we had uranium exploration taking place in our community. Now in 1978, the Uranium Task Force was put together. We're talking about several departments from the Nova Scotia government, Department of Health, Environment, and Energy and Mines, the VG Hospital, and Halifax Affairs. All those departments came together to study what was going on in our community, how the uranium was impacting our wells. In 1981, big change happened. Court order from the judge. Residents in Harrodsfield, stop drinking your water. It has been impacted with uranium, and it's unhealthy to drink. That same year, they put a committee together to study and investigate scientific information in order to protect workers, the public, and the environment. 6 months later, this was canceled due to the election. That same year, a 10-year water delivery program started. Residents received bottled water once a week. One family would get 4 bottles, another would get 6 bottles. Now we're talking the 4-liter bottles. And it was never enough, especially for large families with a lot of kids. It was never enough. That same year, there was a ban put on uranium exploration in mining all over Nova Scotia. Mr. Premier, the reason that was put there was because of what happened to Harrodsfield's water supply. That's why that ban was put there. That ban that you dismissed. The moratorium that was put there in order for us to feel somewhat safe that this wouldn't occur again. But that didn't happen. That changed. In 1991, that 10-year water delivery program was canceled. The water line of safe water was stopped. The reason for this? The Nova Scotia environment changed the readings for uranium from 20 milligrams to 100. And anyone in between could drink their water, or so they thought. No one told them. No one told them the difference. This left residents scrambling to put themselves into more debt to buy a water system, find alternative sources, or continue drinking. And so many continued drinking the water. If we knew back in '76 that 44 years later we wouldn't be able to drink our water, we would have stopped. We would have stopped it. Residents were not told. Residents were not told that some were exposed to high levels of uranium, radon, and radium all at once. Residents weren't told. It's important to all those who are doing the uranium protesting. Don't stop. Please don't stop. You don't want what happened to my community to happen to yours. You don't want that to happen. The suffering, the grieving, the pain, the deaths, the tumors. So many tumors, pets and people. So my friends, please don't stop. We cannot have this uranium exploration taking place because it will contaminate all those wells in those pink areas. If you don't have a water system and you have uranium, give your pets bottled water. Don't give them this uranium water. They will suffer. They will suffer a lot. So I hope and pray that this information helps you. I hope and pray that someone out there finally listens to us. We are people. We deserve to be able to drink safe water. Getting older, carrying bottles of water is so hard now. So take care of yourself, take care of your family, and don't forget, the uranium can be easily exposed in those areas, okay? And test your water, okay? God bless everybody.
Very important for people to see. We are humans. We deserve the right to clean drinking water. It's 2025. We shouldn't have to worry about this. So I thank Marlene for making that video, and yeah.
So next up, we have Barry Leslie to share a few things of what you can do.
Yeah. Do I need to use this for it to be recorded?
No, I can.
Because can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
I'd much rather do that. All right, because I like being out here. My name is Barry Leslie. I used to live in Gasborough for 40 years, where who knows what was in my water. I never had it tested the uranium. But my wife and I drank it, and my children drank it, and quite a while my grandchildren drank it. I now live in Wolfville. We downsized. I'm a woodlot owner. I have woodlots in Queens County. Retired teacher, and before I taught, I was a plumber pipe fitter. In the days when I was a plumber pipe fitter, I worked in northern Manitoba for a while, doing pipe fitting in hard rock mines, gold, zinc, never uranium, but hard rock mines. And so I've seen tailing ponds. And even in those types of mines, you get toxic residue. And they're horrible. And if you get rain, like we've gotten in the last couple of years, they are going to overflow, and we're going to have a lot of trouble. Or especially if we go with uranium. Now, the in situ mining, in situ leaching that they talk about, can't be done on the bedrock. It can only be done in porous soil, sand, gypsum, sedimentary soils. If I'm wrong, Elizabeth, jump all over me.
I have a picture.
Okay, so what you'll get in Vaughan from Millet Brook and in East Dalhousie, it's on the bedrock, so it'll be open pit. Or it'll be open pit mining. In Vaughan, they're talking 2,300 hectares. So that's 23 square kilometers. A huge area. And in East Dalhousie, it's smaller than that. But it's so localized that it'll be in that LaHave River watershed. And then you're in real trouble. In Vaughan, it's the Avon River watershed, and that water goes down to the Minas Basin. The thought is just off. So I became involved in this, and I want to say, look at the people here who have come to talk to you. Look at that film. And we are not a bunch of radicals. All right? There was a day when, well, I turned 70 this year, so there was a day a long time ago when maybe back in the 70s, I may have been termed that in my university days, but no longer. I have grandchildren. And when I look at sorry, that hasn't happened. When I look at those 8-year-old twin boys and my 6-year-old granddaughter, I took her for a hike to Crystal Falls the other day, for those of you who've been to Crystal Falls. And there's so many other places like that in Nova Scotia. And we're looking at destroying them for our children and our grandchildren. We're looking at poisoning, not just the water, the trees and the vegetation around it. We're looking at creating an environment, not just a physical environment, but a social environment where people will be afraid to go to the woods if we bring those miners here, if we explore. I'm a hunter. I fish. I hike. I've been to Vaughan in those woods. Maybe I shouldn't have. All right, but we can't let this happen. Now, when Megan had her film on there, you saw Cigar Lake in northern Saskatchewan, and there's McLean Lake there too. It's in the Athabasca Basin. Huge amounts of uranium taken out of that. We can't compete with that at all. We shouldn't be trying. Why would we? First of all, it's just too dangerous, but we're so small. Right now, a company out of British Columbia is beginning another major project in the Athabasca Basin, where all this uranium is, high quality uranium. It's called Rook 1, R-O-O-K, and the number 1, if you want to go ahead and look at it online. And it will produce more uranium than Cigar Lake and McLean Lake are produced together. So why Tim Houston has the idea? I just can't figure it out. We're so small, it's not going to create many jobs, even if that was a choice. I mean, what are you going to do? Choose a job over the destruction of your environment and making the land poison for your grandchildren? I can't do that. So we need to fight it. So I guess I'm not a geologist, I'm not a hydrologist, I'm a person who has worked in those areas, and worked on rigs up north. And the mindset of the people working there is it's a job. They're not really caring about the environment a lot. They're making bucks. And we have to understand that. I spoke with a person this morning who said, well, we have to have the jobs. Yeah, we do need jobs, but there's other ways to do them. All right, we can't destroy the land with this idea. I just cannot figure it out. Now, so I'll move on And that, we all understand this shouldn't be done. So where do we stand now? Well, the companies have backed off because they could not do what the government wanted them to do in 1 month. I've looked at the chart for scoring those RFPs, the request for proposals, and they include consultation, so it added up to 100 points. So each category received a certain number of points. They had to do public consultation, consultation with indigenous peoples. They had to do a reclamation plan. You can't do it. That's something that takes so much time. You cannot. So the government had to know that. And now we've got the call for cutting red tape. And that will be done. So what can we do? What can you do? Well, you can do the same things I've done. You can become involved in this group, helping us, but you can all go see your MLA, write a letter, but go see him. I'm meeting with Julie Van Exen Monday at 2:30 in the afternoon. So go see them. Go see your member of parliament. Tim Houston and the Conservatives, the provincial government, put this forth, and they are in charge of mining in Nova Scotia. However, it's the federal government that is in charge of uranium mining. All right, that's the one exception. So contact your member of parliament also. I've been in touch with Cody Blois, and myself and Sarah were Sarah. And Sarah and Brad Redden, who's not here today, we had a Zoom with Cody Blois three and a half weeks ago, something like that. Which time we talked to him for quite a while, and he came out, basically, he's a politician, but he said, having visited uranium mines in northern Saskatchewan, he was cognizant, quote unquote, of the environmental footprint that will be left by uranium mining in Nova Scotia, and that it appeared to him to be unacceptable. Now, since then, he's become Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister of Canada. So maybe I haven't heard back from him, neither is Sarah and neither is Brett. I'm about to visit his office tomorrow and find out just what's going on. I've also emailed, what's his first name here? Tim Hodgson. Tim Hodgson. He is the Federal Minister of Natural Resources. Right? He's from Markham, Ontario, so, but he's the Federal Minister. No response. So we have to keep pressure up, and if you can, go see them. Look them in the eyes. Right? Don't be rude, just lay it out there. I have grandchildren, I have children, I have a life. One of the things I intend to do in the near future, and I'm using these examples not to say what I'm going to do, to give you hopefully ideas. Around Wolfville, where I now live, and in Gasbro, where I did live for all that time, there are a lot of wineries. It doesn't just take the poisoning of the land and the water to destroy those wineries. Just the word, the idea that uranium mining is happening near those will undoubtedly hurt them financially. Acadia University. I intend to talk to Jeff Hennessy, the president. If you're living in Ontario, are you going to send your kid to a university that in a straight line is about 24 kilometers from a uranium mine? No. Right? You're going to send them somewhere else. UMB if you want to become East. Whatever. So, if Houston wants to use, if the MLAs, if they want to use that economic argument, we've got them hands down. Because if you look at all these things, if you look at the health costs that will accrue if they do this, if you look at the cost for reclamation, financially, it's just stupid. Right? But more importantly, we have to save the land for our children. That is what Nova Scotia is known for, pristine environment. And there are ways to make that financially beneficial. We just haven't done it really well yet. But we have to keep it pristine. So those things you can do, you can talk to those people. In the future, our board is meeting this evening here, and I have some ideas about ways to get it out there to the public, because I know the majority of the public still doesn't even know what's going on. And a number of people who have heard that the companies didn't provide RFPs figure it's all over. It's just beginning. The provincial government is saying they're going to do the exploration. How? They don't have people qualified to do that. And if they do, what are they going to do? Are they going to contract it out? And then to whom? And if they do it, what are they going to do with their information? Right? There's all these unknowns. There's no consultation. There's no transparency. Everything's okay. So I'm begging you, for all of us, to get out there and become involved. The average age in here may not be 70, like me, all right? But it's an age when you go in, many of you, when you go in and look at your MLA and say, what is going on here? They're not going to write you off as some young whippersnapper. Right? I've spoken with Bobby Best. I don't know how many of you know Bobby. Bobby and I have known each other way back when the plumbing days. And he supports our cause completely. So he's asked me to contact him. We'll try and get things going there. Okay. So thank you for listening to me. I'm just giving you ideas, and hopefully you can come up with more ideas on your own and share them with people. Whenever you're talking to somebody, if you're out having a coffee with them, or that sort of thing, talk about this not from a doom and gloom perspective, but from a perspective of what we can do for our children and what we can do to protect this great place to live. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much, Barry. Next up, we have Elizabeth Costers, who is a retired geologist, to go over some things on a slideshow for us. Thank you.
Now, if you would mind, I like to stand up and talk and point. So if you would mind, forward these slides, then thank you. Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Costers. I'm a geologist. I'm originally from the Netherlands. I worked in the Netherlands, in the United States, and here in Nova Scotia, and I've been retired for about 10 years. And I always say that, oh, she's a geologist, she must know everything. No. The Earth is like a human body. We have a lot of specialists. If you have an issue next week, I'm going to have cataract surgery. I would not go to a cardiologist for my cataract. So even though they're both doctors, there's a large range of specializations within our general field of geology. My field is sedimentology. I have not been involved in uranium mining. I've done a lot of oil and gas work. But I still think I can provide you with some factual background that might help you feel better informed. So about uranium. It is the heaviest element on Earth. Every element consists, as you might remember from your high school chemistry class, a core with protons, which have a positive charge, and neutrons, no charge, surrounded by electrons, negative charge. In stable elements, the charge is balanced. Uranium is unstable. It has, not only is it the heaviest, it has a lot more neutrons and protons than electrons, and so the charge is not balanced. And in the process of becoming stable, uranium decays, that's what we call decay, by ejecting part of the nucleus and electrons. And this is what we call radioactivity. And then it becomes something else, a very long chain. The complete uranium, which is unstable, to lead, which is stable, is the final decay product, takes 4.5 billion years. And I added the numbers, just as you know how many zeros that ends up. This means that after 4.5 billion years, half of all original uranium on Earth has decayed to lead. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Over the next 4.5 billion years, the next half will decay. In other words, we'll never run out. There will always be uranium. It's a very, very common element. But it's also that process, that natural process, can also be used. So during the decay process, the uranium becomes many different elements temporarily as it decays to lead. And for a certain amount of time, it exists as radium and as radon, an active gas, a radioactive gas. So radioactive radium and uranium and radon are very abundant in Nova Scotia's bedrock and are a well-documented public health risk. That's just the natural situation. That's before you start interfering with it. So where does uranium occur? The predecessors were so good. Everybody's picked up geologic maps. Yay. So this is a very simplified map of the granite rock bodies in red in Nova Scotia. The granite is about 450 million years old, and it rose up from deep in the Earth's crust. It is the source of the uranium. But it's very mobile. Not only is it old and abundant and decays, it's also very mobile. Not just decay, it likes to move around. So it's also found further away from the granite, and erosion and recomposition help it to move further away from the granite. So how did that happen? Next. So here's my attempt at a cartoon. So granite is original Earth's crust. Those of you who live Lake Paul and those areas know exactly what it looks like. It's why we have these beautiful clear water lakes with these lovely boulders around it. It's original Earth crust. It wells up from below. It goes a very long time. It's not a volcano. And it's 100% silicate minerals, which is the most common mineral on Earth. And it's a so-called lithophile element. It likes to attach itself to silicate minerals. Well, isn't that convenient? Because there is the most common mineral on Earth. So the result is it's a very mobile in the Earth crust. So in my next cartoon attempt, I've tried to show how uranium migrates from the granite to the surrounding rock. So the South Mountain granite body rises up and about 400 million years and moves all the other rocks up with it. And then as soon as you move up, what happens? Gravity, so everything starts eroding and redepositing away from the high that's created by the rising of the granite. Also, at that time, Nova Scotia was located at a tropical latitude. Weathering goes very fast at a tropical latitude. So there were thick so-called laterite soils on the rising granite. And at some point, these started washing off and eroding down that high. The suggestion is that that happened, geologically speaking, relatively rapid. And so what we have in the end, yes, is the next surface, and we have granite at the surface, and we have other rocks on either side. Those rocks that were infiltrated with the uranium, which is lithophile, which likes to travel with other grains. And that's why we have uranium, not just in the granite, but everywhere around it. And then, so there we are. Here is again the granite bodies. And this is a map from the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources. Their website is excellent. And here, we've seen this map before today. Here is the granite body, and there's other granite bodies as well. So the different uranium occurrences in Nova Scotia partially line up with the granite, but they also line up with the sediments that were redeposited around the granite. And so what the map shows is that the granite uranium types are in red diamonds, and the pegmatite is basically the same thing, don't worry about it. And then there's this thing called roll front, which is the Tatamagouche area and the 3 Mile Plains area. The government has not addressed picked out 3 Mile Plains this time, but they did in the 70s and 80s. I've worked on the cores that were taken then. They are also roll front, because that sediment ran off the granite. But they haven't targeted it this time. They've just targeted Millbrook. Yes. So this gets us to uranium mining methods, and a lot of very good things have been said about it. So we've seen that the uranium in the granite bodies is distributed in a different way than the uranium in the sedimentary rocks. In the granite bodies, it is original, it's kind of chaotically dispersed. In the sedimentary rocks, it's being brought down by erosion and redeposition. Yes. So this means also that the mining methods will be different for each type. So on the granite, it will likely be open pit mining. You're going to see the same picture that we've just seen before. The risks of open pit mining are uranium dust, surface water pollution, and detrimental effects on the food chain. In sedimentary rocks, it will likely be what's also being talked about, solution mining. It's a large industrial complex with risks of groundwater contamination. Yes. So this is a so-called, this is example, this is a hammer for scale. Geologists like to put their hammer in for scale. It's not here, it's in Australia. It's just an example of a roll front, which is what occurs in the Tatamagouche area and in the Windsor area, 3 Mile Plains area, which they haven't actively listed this time. And you need to see, all you see, you don't have to totally understand this, I don't expect it. All you see is that this rock has been discolored with respect to the rock around it. That rock has had active uranium migrate through it. Remember we said uranium is lithophile, it likes to migrate. But you can also see, so this is a typical uranium roll, what they call a roll front. This is from a website that tells mining crews and engineers what these things look like. But you can also see how fractured the rock is, which is normal. Every rock looks like this. Nothing looks homogeneous, beautiful, one slab. You find those, you make them a monument. So leakage, movement of elements, solutions through the rocks around that uranium front is completely normal, natural, it's what's expected to happen. Yes. So, thank you, you found the same one. So this is roll front, uranium mining and processing. Here is the uranium in that rock picture before, and then they have a massive industrial complex to leach it out in situ, to leach it out of the ground and bring it back into these plants, and then extract it and process it. This is a massive industrial complex. This is what River John is facing, because that's where the roll front deposit is. And in 3 Mile Plains, but they've taken that off the list. Yes. And here we are. We did the same thing. So this is the Cigar Lake open mine. So if it's not in roll front, then it's in a granitic rock, and you have open cast mining, which is what this looks like. This is the one in the northern Saskatchewan. It's a Cigar Lake mine, a very large one. Yes. So, key facts about Canadian uranium. Canada is the second largest producer and exporter of uranium in the world, with 15% of the global production in 2022. And almost all of it comes from Saskatchewan. Nuclear power generation accounted for approximately 14% of Canada's electricity in 2021. So of all electricity generated in Canada, 14% is from nuclear. I think over 45% is from hydro, but I should look that number up. Canada has developed its own nuclear reactor. It's called the CANDU, which is really an awesome name. There are 18 CANDU reactors in Ontario, one in New Brunswick, Point Lepreau, which is getting expanded, renewed, and 11 in operation outside of Canada. And under Canada's nuclear non-proliferation policy, we can only use Canadian uranium for peaceful purposes. In 2022, not very long ago, 80% of Canada's uranium production was exported for use in nuclear power generation throughout the world. If our own Canadian domestic supply would be threatened, we could simply stop selling it. Almost all of it comes from Saskatchewan. There's no need. We have plenty. We export 80% of our own production. So this is the area in northern Saskatchewan. It's about 200 by 150 kilometers large, and there's one more, and there's one starting here again, but approximately this is the uranium mining area in northern Saskatchewan. The average rainfall here is about 350 millimeters a year, and again, uranium is mobile, but less so in a dry climate. If it doesn't have fluids and grains to attach to the fluids, it's less mobile. Climate's changing. Saskatchewan is getting wetter and warmer. This increases the risk of uranium mobility, also in this very unpopulated area. The northern Saskatchewan uranium deposits are in almost uninhabited, at least by people, territory. The only indigenous settlement is Hatchet Lake, Wollaston Lake. It's here. Population 1,700 in 2021. It's about 25 kilometers from the Rabbit Lake mine. I wrote about this, and I said to people if this community couldn't hunt or fish, and I was corrected. And I went back into my literature, and I realized I was right. They can hunt or fish as long as they stay on that side. It is a hunting and fishing destination, and the community are guides. There's been 25 years of testing. Mind you, the workers of these mines fly in and out. They're in for 2 weeks, out for 2 weeks. The community isn't. They're there for. So it has suggested that this is safe. But there are, again, only 1,700 people in all of this area. If we go to the next slide, then we have this same size area, 200 by 160 kilometers, is all of the southern Nova Scotia mainland. We have a rainfall that's also been mentioned. Wonderful. It's like lessons go better when things are repeated. We have a rainfall that's at least 3 times as high. In other words, making uranium more mobile because it's wetter. This is the 25-kilometer radius that the health report for the people of Wollaston Lake talked about. So as long as you were 25 kilometers away from that uranium mine, you're fine. 1,700 people in northern Saskatchewan. I had to correct this yesterday because I got racked over the knuckles after publishing this in the Halifax Examiner. This is a 25-kilometer radius, so it's a 25 kilometers, it's 50. It's 20. So that whole circle is 50-kilometer circle. There are a lot more people than 1,700 Indigenous people within those circles, let alone around it. So even under the safest of saving conditions, a lot of people would have to move. Never mind wineries. Yes. Now the government said that they would have to get the opportunity to do research. The ban did not prevent doing research. I did research with the students at Acadia. This is research from the government itself about the risk of uranium in well water in Nova Scotia. Yes, you can knock those through. There are about 20,455 private wells that are at high risk in this area, specifically around the granite body. In drinking water, the chemical properties of uranium are of greater concern than its radioactivity. It does different things to your body when it's in water, independent from that it's radioactive. Elevated levels of uranium in drinking water can affect your kidneys. The overall percentage of private well water exceeding safe drinking water limits in Nova Scotia may be as high as 6.5%. This is a 2020 map document. 25,000 people have uranium in their drinking water that is above the safety level, which relates to the video of the lady in Harrietsville, which I watched in its entirety. It's amazing. So in Nova Scotia, uranium in drinking water are between 0.05 and 0.83 milligrams per liter. Yes. The Canadian guideline is 0.02. So anybody in that category is exposed to a lot of danger. Yes. And this is the radon myth, part of the radon myth, but all this is online, this information. So yes. Radon is one of the radioactive decay elements of uranium. It occurs naturally, and of course it occurs most closely to the granite outcrop, where the original uranium is. Harrietsville is right here. So this is actually, it's a public health risk, but it's quite easy to manage. Make sure you have a carbon filter in your drinking water supply. Test it, of course, you can get a test for free. Public libraries have them, the Nova Scotia government has them. And you can take that risk out of your drinking water quite easily. Yes. So, the question is, why? Why, oh why, oh why, as Barry also said, is there this push for uranium exploration in Nova Scotia now? My sense is, we've seen there's enough in Saskatchewan. There's nothing that threatens our domestic supply, and that's independent of what you think of uranium as an energy source. Just leave it out. Just focus on, is our supply threatened? No, we export 80% of the Saskatchewan uranium, and that's the highest quality uranium in the world. And it's by no means close to being depleted. In recent months, this is from June, from some stock market magazine, uranium has a special place in the stock market. Don't ask me why, I don't understand stock markets. But it rose in early June as the possibility for political support for the nuclear sector globally outweighed the view of ample supply. We have ample supply, really, but if President Trump signed an order to cut regulations and accelerate licenses for nuclear reactors and power plants, and that leads, of course, to a growing demand for uranium. Does the US have a lot of uranium? Not really. The Trump administration is also supportive of the nuclear sector and paved the way for tech companies to use nuclear power to sustain power-hungry data centers. Especially AI, ChatGPT, and Bitcoin require massive, unbelievable, astronomical amounts of electricity. And there's lack of clarity on future Trump tariffs on uranium imports from Canada and Kazakhstan, which is the world's largest supplier. And that means strains the stress on your capacity, because of course, yes, the US imports that uranium from Kazakhstan, which faces tariffs of 27%. Kazakhstan is the largest exporter in the world, and Canada's only 10%. Well, we keep it for ourselves. So, here's the final slide. There are a lot of extremely good reasons why we should not allow uranium exploration or production in Nova Scotia. And many of those have been mentioned by previous speakers, and they're all extremely good. This is my one personal view other than the technical part. Whatever your position is on uranium mining in general, whatever your position is on nuclear energy, this is completely irrelevant. If you're forced to, if you get into a discussion and somebody forces you to say, "But what do you think of nuclear energy?" It's irrelevant. Because there is enough uranium of the highest quality in a nearly uninhabited and very remote part of Saskatchewan. Canada's energy security is not at risk. Whether I personally approve of nuclear reactors or not is irrelevant. The general public wants energy security. It is not at risk. We're also, as we all know, in a biodiversity crisis. There's no need to clean your windshield. The bugs are gone. We have over-exhausted the natural environment that we depend on. And while acknowledging that we need Earth resources for 6.5 billion people, I think we're at 7. We must also protect our own habitat so that we can actually continue to exist as a species and be more selective than we have been. We've used this shotgun approach about natural resource extraction. Oh, we found something here, let's go get it out. We have to be much more selective when it comes to extracting them than we did before. We should not let the stock market decide our so-called needs. So therefore, we have to strive. This is E.O. Wilson, the world's greatest biologist who passed away a few years ago. He's to strive towards protecting half the Earth in our own interest. It's not some sort of green, hippie kind of concept. It is in our own interest. The Saskatchewan Reserve is more than big enough. It's in our own country. We don't rely on anyone. Mining uranium in Nova Scotia would not improve understanding of public health issues because that research was carried out also during the ban. That research on wells was in 2021. I mean, the ban was in full act. You can do research. You can do other research you want to do that will improve understanding, and you don't need to lift a ban to do research. Also, mining uranium will not provide long-lasting jobs. We know that. It's dangerous stuff. They're robotizing. Forget it. And it will never make a meaningful contribution, the Nova Scotia Reserve, to Canada's energy security. It simply can't. And that's where I want to leave it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Elizabeth. Next up, we have Chris Hutchinson. Chris and his family own Hutchinson Acres with over 900 acres and more than 60,000 taps, and they produce more than 75,000 liters of maple syrup every year.
Works good. So, my name is better. My name is Chris Hutchison. So Premier Houston just announced that no bids were received for mining uranium in Nova Scotia. He also stated the province was going to investigate other options, and the Nova Scotians should calm down and stop getting worried about it because the government knows what it's doing. Our politicians are continuing to look at large projects in the province to balance their shrinking revenues to keep up with their increased spending. Projects like mining, when done right, are great ways to increase revenue stream, just not here. Nova Scotia is made up of so much water above and below the ground, it's all connected. Whether it's flowing north or south, it's where we get our well water and our lake water. We can't take the risk to disturb the ground below for a small amount of what might be considered economic value, when the water we drink has more value than uranium ever could. Once your well water is contaminated, there's no ways to fix it, and who will be to blame? The opening of the gypsum mines, salt mines, underground gold mines are good examples of mining that can be done safely. Uranium cannot. We all understand we're sitting on a large deposit of uranium in Nova Scotia, but if it's not disturbed, it'll be fine just where it is. 15 years ago, in the community of Lake Paul and East Dalhousie, there was no businesses operating. Now we have a coffee shop, maple syrup bottling operation, which ships all over the world, sugar bush, several farms, and a Christmas tree farm. This is economic development, exactly what our government is claiming that it wants. If they put as much effort into developing these industries as they did eliminating bureaucracy for mining, we'd all be 10 times the size we are now. One acre of sugar bush will produce a barrel of maple syrup per year, every year forever. That same barrel is worth $3,000 once it's bottled and ready for export. Think about it. That's $3,000 an acre every year, and that money is direct revenue from outside of Canada. Almost every dollar is spent here locally on supplies, plumbers, electricians, hardware, vehicle repair shops, fuel, and gas. When compared to mining or forestry, maple syrup will always outperform. That doesn't mean there's no mining or forestry. There's room for both in our communities. Uranium mining will have a negative impact. I've heard of houses for sale in the area, and after the announcements were made, they had some showings, and then there's none. Some people are also saying that they're going to move if this goes ahead. Real estate prices will plummet. It seems that conservative MLAs are being told to toe the party line instead of representing the people that elected them. The community meetings have been held and been very well attended, and almost everyone not in favor of uranium mining and want the ban put back on. The MLAs need to start listening to the people who voted them into office and tell our Premier this is not the economic development we want. Sustainable development includes farming, forestry, maple syrup production, safe mining, do not have negative impacts on our communities. So, what can you do? Call your MLA. Tell them to put the ban back on and keep calling them. Call the NDP and Liberal opposition. Tell them you don't want uranium mining. Write Tim Houston. Tell him to put the ban back on. Call or write your local media and ask them if they're reporting and investigating on uranium mining. Get informed. We have a new website called Nova Scotia Forest Forever. We are putting new information on this daily. Finally, there's lots you can do to inform our government. No to uranium mining and put the ban back on, period. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Next up, we have David Cameron. No? Next up, we have Julie Klassen, concerned citizen of East Dalhousie, to share a few things.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming tonight. Oh, my iPad open, sorry. Sorry about this. My name's Julie Klassen. My husband and I built our home in East Dalhousie 30 years ago. Like all of you in the valley and in surrounding areas, we've created a life, we've built a home and raised our families there. Unfortunately, the Houston government passed Bill 6 overturning the ban on uranium exploration and mining. They chose not to consult the Mi'kmaq Nova Scotian communities or landowners. These actions only distill our trust in this government. Nova Scotia and our neighbouring provinces do not have enough square kilometres nor does the topography allow for safe uranium mining. And then there's the question, can it be safe? No. Unfortunately, in situ mining is not possible due to the rock in our province. It would have to be open pit mining, and as you've heard, the type of open pit mining, it just doesn't work in Nova Scotia. That type of mine takes so many kilometres, and the risk is just too great. I'm urging everyone to do your homework and read up. There's been a lot of news on the TV, on the radio, and many posts and information shared on Facebook. There are health and environmental impacts that this mining will have in our province. As it stands, the maritime climate, with its rainfall, winds, hurricane-prone conditions, will only spread radioactive contaminants from uranium mines, and it'll spread to the cities, communities, forests, wildlife, farms, coasts, lakes, rivers, watersheds, and water sources. Not to mention the impact that mining will have on tourism and filming in our lovely province. Who, by the way, wants to visit Nova Scotia's uranium mine? With uranium mining, there are huge risks. In some of these other locations, they use robots because it's too dangerous for the miners to actually be in those locations. Our government want to open mines in our backyards. Particles from radioactive waste or tailings will spread by wind and water, affecting areas from 100 to 400 kilometres. There is a map that we had, I don't know, I've got it somewhere. I can show you after my speech. 400 kilometres, that's the radius that was calculated by a study done on the effects of uranium, and this was done after World War II. There was uranium mining in East Germany. So there is a link that I can share with you so that you can check on that. 400 kilometres, that's our whole province. That includes New Brunswick, PEI, and even the northern part of Maine. I'm sure the government haven't consulted with the people of New Brunswick and PEI on this either. My message to Mr. Houston, shame on you. You were not elected to dictate to us. You were elected to serve the people, and that includes consultation. There are safe and environmentally friendly alternative energy sources. Of all the critical minerals, the most dangerous and radioactive one is uranium. The government's race to secure critical minerals should not be at the expense of the people and the environment. Sorry, it's all too much sometimes. The provincial government communicated that they're focused on natural resource extraction for roads and hospitals. We will need more hospitals if uranium mining is allowed. We need to put a hold on any pending exploration and continue to have information sessions and in-depth discussions in town halls within communities. Citizens should have the opportunity to learn the facts and understand the impacts and risks of mining, because the lives of over 1,076,000 Nova Scotians and the future of our province are far too important to be decided by only 43 MLAs sitting in the legislature. After all, those MLAs have already demonstrated they can't be trusted. Let the people of Nova Scotia decide. It's time for a provincial referendum to be held on the mining in uranium, and for the ban to be reinstated. Let us stand tall, be heard, be strong, and united. Say no to uranium mining in Nova Scotia, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Julie. Next up, I would like to invite Janice Wilson, who is a concerned citizen of East Dalhousie as well, to share a few words.
Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to tell my story. It's nice to see you all here. My name is Janice Wilson. My husband and I live in East Dalhousie, Annapolis County. We have 260 acres marked for uranium exploration. 170 acres of that is on Lower 60 Lake and is part of the Lehave watershed area. This land has been in the Wilson family for nearly 100 years. It's been a source of income for my family for years. We try hard to be good stewards of the land and take pride in being responsible harvesters of saw logs, firewood, Christmas trees. We use that land for recreation. I enjoy activities such as hiking, skiing, snowshoeing, hunting, and fishing. It's home to all kinds of wildlife and lots of songbirds. Exploration on this property could very well cause contamination to our property. If there's contamination, it's in the Lehave River and it's going out to the Atlantic. Lower Lake 60 is home to the Scout Camp, Camp Hiawatha, which some of you may be familiar with. Lots of young Scouts from this area attend camp there. If mining is allowed to happen, I can't imagine kids attending camp. There won't even be a camp there. We understand uranium exploration and mining has changed over the years since it was first proposed in the late 70s, but uranium is still uranium. And it's still, the waste of uranium mining is still radioactive. There's no mining company that can guarantee there won't be contamination. Accidents and failures do occur. And it's not just toxic contamination, it's radioactive. We don't want it in our backyard, and when those of people who are saying they want uranium mining, I'm betting they don't want it in their backyard either. We are upset with the government for lifting the ban in the first place, with no consultation with Mi'kmaq, landowners, or communities. When no mining companies applied to do exploring, some people thought, and they still do, that's the end of it. But on June 23rd, the CBC reported that the government would do their own geological study of Millet Brook, East Dalhousie, and Louisville. Then last Friday, Premier Houston was on the Sheldon McLeod phone-in program, and a caller asked him, what's your plan for uranium exploration and mining? The Premier's reply was, well, it's toast right now. And then he went on to say, there's lots of people talking about it, but I'm moving on. So now, I'm confused, I'm frustrated, and I've lost complete faith in Houston and his MLAs who refuse to listen to their constituents. I tried talking to my MLA, I got nowhere. I'm going to still try. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a geologist or a physicist. I'm just one small landowner, very concerned about what's happening in our province and to our environment. Over the last month, though, I've had opportunity to speak to people in these professions that aren't paid by government or mining companies. And the story is the same. Leave uranium in the ground. So the first time in my 67 years, I guess I now belong to a special interest group with a loud voice.
Yes.
And this loud voice wants the Premier to know mining uranium has no place in Nova Scotia. Go back to the drawing board, come up with a better way to grow our economy and reach the targets that have been set. So let's continue to have our voices heard. Because Houston, we have a problem.
Thank you so much, Janice. Next up, we have a statement from Claudia Chandler, who is the official opposition leader of the NDP, and Lisa LaChance, who is the MLA of Halifax Citadel Stable Island, and NDP natural resource critic. And Megan is going to read that for us.
Thank you, Colby. So it goes, friends. We are both sorry that we can't be here in person with you all. Since the beginning of this fight, the community mobilization against the unilateral lifting of the uranium ban has been inspiring. We have heard and met with people across the province who know that lifting the uranium ban without warning or consultation is wrong. The Houston government thinks they don't need to listen to Nova Scotians' concerns about their property rights, drinking water, and health of their community. That is not okay, and we understand how terrible and frightening it is when you don't feel like you have a say in what's happening in your own backyard. We have been in this fight since the beginning. In March, every NDP MLA voted against lifting the ban on uranium mining and decreed the lack of consultation. We continue to watch and engage as new laws passed quickly in March by Houston, making it easier for the government to access even the surface of your land for development. We think it should be easier and fairer for people to protect their properties. The Houston government announces changes to expedite mining projects. The NDP knows we need a full picture of community environmental health issues before getting started. The Houston government ignores the constitutional delay to consult the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people, and we don't want this happening in our name. The push by Mining Association of Nova Scotia to ease regulations of the mining industry goes against key findings of the Westray inquiry. We know that Nova Scotians want people to be safe when mining and want their health, drinking water, and environment protected. We wish you all the best for this meeting and ongoing organization. It's great to hear from you all and connect with around all corners of the province. Claudia Chender and Lisa LaChance from the NDP. Thank you.